I did everything right and they indicted me. And I don't know what the I'm doing. Antifa!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Katie Halper Show. Thank you so much for your patience. We are starting a little bit late, but that is because we scored some amazing additional guests. We already had amazing guests, and now we have even more amazing in terms of the number. Not that they're more amazing than the other guests. All the guests are equally amazing, but now we have, numerically speaking, more of them. So, of course, do please, as always, we would love it if you hit the like. It's just a great way to get out the news, get the word out about this stream so that more people come and hear these very important voices that we are about to speak with. Also, please, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to this channel. And very exciting news, guys. We have hit 450,000 subscribers. So thank you so much to everyone who has made that happen. And that includes all of you out there, all the people who work on the show. We are so incredibly grateful. Also, keep subscribing, though, if you haven't already. Please do subscribe. And also, please do become Patreon supporters at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Again, that's patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. And you get bonus content, extended interviews, extra interviews for $5 a month. If you can't swing the $5 a month, but you just want to help make this show happen, we really appreciate that. And you can do that at a $1 a month level. So that's $12 a year. And it's very, Brad, what is the math on the daily cost if you do the $5 a year?
25 cents Monday through Friday.
So not even 7 days a week. It's a quarter Monday through Friday. Thank you. And thanks for Brad for coming on, even though I know the sun is really in your face, but that looked very cool. Like you looked like you were in an action film and had just saved someone's life. So thanks for that. So by the way, we have amazing guests that we had already told you about, but we just added two really exciting guests. And these are people who were involved in the protests against the Palestinian land theft real estate sale. Like you kind of can't make up this level of evil where synagogues are hosting these real estate sales where you can have stolen Palestinian land. You can try to purchase that. And we want to thank everyone who's been doing these protests. It's a very cynical way, obviously, to try to weaponize a synagogue, a religious institution, to make it so it seems like anyone who is opposed to stealing land is an anti-Semite and protesting a synagogue. That's, of course, not what it's about at all. And so joining us, who weren't able to announce until now because we just got them, will be Terri Kay in the last segment, who is an active member of Al-Awda and co-leads their stolen land campaign. And Rabbi Dovid Feldman, who is a spokesman for Neturei Karta International, which is a religious Jewish anti-Zionist organization. And he recently, you may have seen, he was literally spat on by Zionist protesters because they are such morally upstanding citizens and obviously always take the high road, which includes spitting on rabbis. Because that's how they roll. Okay, but and Rahma Zein will also be in that segment, the great Egyptian journalist, famous for many things, including yelling at Clarissa Ward at the Rafah border for basically being complicit in genocide. But our first guest, we are so excited to bring him onto the show. He is making his Katie Halper Show debut. So things are really looking up for this guy. I mean, he may even get like a job at a university. He may get to move to London. Just kidding. He lives there. But extremely excited to bring on Ashok Kumar, who is a Green Party activist and a professor of political economy at the University of London. Welcome, Ashok.
Hi, Katie.
Hi. Thanks for coming. Of course.
Thanks for having me.
Nice. Great background. It's such a great background.
Thanks.
It almost looks like it's like a green screen, but it's
not. It's real.
Right.
It's real.
You can see from your movements. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you've been making the rounds on media in the UK. You've been doing some pretty phenomenal jobs pushing back at Hasbara talking points. But before we get into the news of the day, I just want to ask you about the recent elections and also the current anti-Semitism panic in the UK. How would you describe what is happening and how it's being covered?
Well, look, it's people. I'm sure your viewers and listeners know a little bit about the history, but basically, the Labour Party, similar to the U.S., the Democratic Party in the U.S., sort of degenerated from the 80s onwards. You had the DLC in America, and in here you had people like Blair take over in the 90s, started like Clinton, pro-war, neocon with some social programs, right? Domestically, kind of liberal, not like kind of anti-racist discursively, but then like pro-war. And then it continues to degenerate. And then in 2015, you have Jeremy Corbyn, lifelong anti-racist, pro-Palestinian, from the socialist wing of the Labour Party. And they do have a socialist wing, or historically had a socialist wing, comes to power, laps the competition. Nobody expects, he barely gets on the ballot internally in the Labour Party. And so there's a kind of full frontal attack from not just obviously Zionists, but also the power structure, finance capital. I mean, the domestic and international bourgeoisie. Like literally, it was like everyone was coming at him. And so they thought they could destroy him. There was an internal struggle there. And then in 2017, we almost win. And everyone's shocked. And then it's a full-on attack. They're throwing everything at him. And then in 2019, he loses 52 of the 54 seats for Brexit voting seats. It wasn't actually anti-Semitism that did it, but that led to his character assassination. Now, that leads to a right-wing leadership in Keir Starmer in the Labour Party, completely beholden to imperial and MI5 interess. I mean, completely cocked, right? And then you get someone like Jack Polanski, who the Green Party has always been quite good here. It's quite similar to the U.S. I mean, Green Party in different places are different. Obviously, in Mexico, I think they're the only party that supports bringing back the death penalty. In Germany, they're kind of a kind of silly party. In the U.S., they tend to be quite good. And in Britain,
Mexico, it's insane.
I mean, I read that somewhere back when I lived in the U.S. decades ago. But there was, they basically shift kind of quite dramatically to the left with the leadership of Zach Polanski. Zach Polanski is Jewish. He's gay. He's historically had some strange political affiliations, but he really comes out from the left and gets backed by that. And so then he wins 7 months ago. It was 60,000 members then. Now it's 235,000 members, probably 230 to 235,000 members. So we have a massive increase in our membership. It's different from the US. Membership is the testament to it because we have parties that have internal democracy. We don't have like open primaries or whatever. And so then you have the election. So the equivalent of local elections or municipal elections happened 3-4 days ago, whenever it was. And we got the second highest number. You see the kind of uni parties with the Tories and the Labour, who had a kind of hegemonic control for the entire history of parliamentary politics, or the 20th century at least. Out-parties, two-party system kind of collapsed, bottom out. It's like the fork in the road, socialism and barbarism situation. Everyone rejects the status quo, and they go towards the far-right reform, which is led by a kind of caricature of a man named Nigel Farage. And then you have Zach Polanski. And so they've really, for the last 3-4 weeks, cranked up all of these like highly personalized attacks, and they're doing the same thing they did under Labor, where we have 235,000 members, 4,500 candidates that ran, finding random tweets by people candidates did it whenever they did. Some of them definitely, I would say, anti-Semitic, but very occasionally, most of them legitimately critical of the state of Israel, like someone tweeting debt to the sort of Bob Dylan quotes, debt to the IDF. The Green Party has very clear language on this. We want to prescribe the IDF as a terrorist organization. We support full BDS that includes cultural, sports. We want to cut off all diplomatic relations. Like, we have very, very strong language, and that's been developing over the last few years as the left-wing shift has happened. And so, they're trying to catch up and get us. And there's a kind of old grandees at the party. They're saying, no, we're taking care of this. But the point is to really stand firm and say, absolutely not. There might be some occasional cases, but there's no problem with anti-Semitism. This is because we stand with the Palestinians. That's the only reason we're being attacked.
Right. I mean, I'm sure you could find individual anti-Semitic members of the Tories.
Oh, I mean, yes. And the Labour Party is running IDF soldiers as candidates. Right. Literal IDF soldiers. And the Reform Party, I mean, there's literally hundreds of kids. The point is, and I think, sorry, I'm going on too much, but the point is that the way to attack this is not to say, hey, look at this party. And I'm not saying this is what you're doing, but what a lot of the Green Party does is to go, look at this individual in this party, look at that individual in that party. It's like, no, the testament to the racism and the chauvinism of a party and the genocidal nature of the Labour Party isn't because individual candidates have said genocidal things. It's because they have a policy of supporting a genocidal state. The reason why reform is racist and sexist isn't because individual candidates said racist or sexist things. It's because their party platform is to build detention centers and deport everyone. Right. Not deport everyone, but like get rid of the legal status of millions of people, 5 million people. The reason why you might have Green Party members saying things, but the party platform is explicitly anti-imperialist, and well, I wish it was more anti-imperialist, and we're moving towards that. And it's not explicitly anti-Zionist, but it's very critical of the entity.
Right. I'm just saying that the irony is that, like, historically, you have a lot of anti-Semites obviously in the Tories in a way that you don't have in Labour or the Greens. And of course, with Nigel Farage's reform, like comedically named reform, there's bigotry of all kinds, but that includes anti-Semitism. They just happen to be pro-Israel.
Of course, yeah.
And we've seen this, again and again. Yeah. But yes, it is that's, I think, one of the reasons that the clip of you that we will be showing shortly was so refreshing to people was because it was so unapologetically not defensive. So going back to this scare, as we talked about this weekend, and last week, we talked about it with Max Blumenthal, and then we talked about it with Dr. Shola this weekend. The media has been obfuscating and hiding reality, which is what they really do so well. Just in case people miss our last 2 streams about this, though, can you just quickly tell us, update us about this stabbing of 2 Jewish men, as well as the arson attempt at a former synagogue, which is in the process of becoming a mosque? Can you tell us about what really happened as opposed to the narrative?
So I'll take the mosque first. So that's in my neighborhood. I live in Tower Hamlets. This is in East London. Historically, there was a very Jewish community here. It's where migrants lived. Historically, the Jewish population moved to north and more east, and now it's very South Asian Muslim, right? And so when you say Tower Hamlets in Britain, it implies something. It's like, oh, that's like a Islamic ghetto or something. That's the implication. So this is a mosque that this is a synagogue that hasn't been a synagogue for decades, because there isn't a Jewish population here, a sufficient number of Jews who live here anymore. And it was sold to a Muslim charity to turn into a mosque, I think 5-6 years ago. And I think it's 2020. And the point isn't that it has visible, it's visibly a mosque. The point is that Tommy Robinson, who is a sort of fascist, who is like the leading fascist in Britain, his name is Stephen Yaxley. He's from Luton. He leads a group called English Defence League. Made it a big thing back when we basically had these massive kind of pogroms here a year and a half ago, where you had these asylums burning down and riots everywhere. And he made this an issue. He said, look at this synagogue. He's a sort of arch Zionist. In America, you have this kind of composition of right, anti-Semitic, but also critical of Israel composition of people. In Britain, it's that you did historically have a right that had, like the BNP, that had that politics. Now you have like very Zionist, right-wing fascists in Britain who are funded directly by the Israeli state or like Israeli interests or whatever. So anyways, and they come to protest, and they're like literally it's just a sea of Israeli flags. So he made this a big issue. So everyone knew that this is what it was, right? It's just come out about, I think, an hour ago that the person who's been arrested for this, his name is Moses something, and he comes from North London. But now that I'm not saying therefore he's Jewish. He's certainly not visibly Muslim, and he's not from East London. So, and it isn't alleged. He was arrested. Doesn't mean he's guilty. It points to the fact that this was potentially an attack precisely because it had been converted to a mosque. I'm not saying it's a false. Some people are saying false flag. I think it's probably the case that this was such a big case that I'm open to the idea that it might be, but I think that probably the evidence is it's being turned into a mosque. It was a very well-known case, and then but nobody's running that story. It's just happened. Everyone's running the story of, oh my God, this former synagogue was attacked. And none of the press said it was bought, but no one talked about the controversy. Anyways, the second case is that you had a stabbing that happened in a quite an Orthodox Jewish neighborhood of someone with a Muslim name who had been released only days ago from a psychiatric ward. and he stabbed someone with a Muslim name, and then he stabbed 2 visibly Orthodox Jewish men, and they are not, they were injured, but they survived. I don't think it was a very serious attack, and then he was arrested. And so but then the media just ran the story that it was 2 Jewish men that were attacked, and not that the first person attacked was Muslim.
Right. Because they wanted to frame it as an anti-Semitic attack, and then they wanted to then attribute it to the pro-Palestine marches and suggest that that's why this happened.
Oh no, but exactly right as that happened, I had this debate with Stephen Pollard, the former Guardian editor, the next day, where he's like, we must shut down all if anyone says, he said, if anyone even says globalize the Intifada or from the river to the sea, that should lead to criminal charges. And I'm like, wait, even in your own self-interest, if this started happening, people would go crazy. Like, what are you doing? They already prescribed Palestine Action, which a court threw out, which has led to 3,000-4,000 arrests. I mean, arrests under terrorism charges because they tried to stop the war machine and didn't injure anyone. So, anyways.
Wow. Yeah. And any other updates about Pal Action? I mean, things are moving.
Well, I want to just say this thing about Palestine Action, just because I assume that most of your listeners are American. The good thing about Britain is that you can, in theory, do these kinds of actions, and lots of them were released. Lots of them had, they were charged 3-4 years. It's going through judicial review. It's going through courts, and they don't get large sentences relative to America. I heard this. They tried the Palestine Action thing in like Connecticut or something, and they were going to put them away and lock away and throw away the key. And I'm like, in America, you have a lot of free speech, but you don't have freedom of action. Here, you couldn't. I mean, I've seen some of the signs you guys have at the protest. I'm like, if we even suggested to have those signs, they would throw you in a windowless room. But you can do actions. So, I mean, in some ways, obviously, this is very authoritarian when it comes to speech, but at least I would rather that it allows for the action. The updates on Palestine Action is that the Filton 24 who attacked a drone factory, the court case, they've now allowed it to be released, the details, and it's a complete stitch-up. If you can, check out I don't know if it's Palestine Action. I mean, my Twitter has an update about it, about how it's a stitch-up. I posted it maybe 10 hours ago. That basically says all the reasons why it's completely, it's just, they're consciously and deliberately trying to undermine the entire process so that they end up doing time.
Right, yeah. So we actually have a couple things related to this. So we have video, pretty chilling, speaking of weaponizing these instances to crack down on free speech. We have a video of a woman being stopped by police after exiting a train for a very, very chilling reason. Let's show this video. Oh, sorry about that.
Could we take some details from you? Obviously, it's going to look at this incident.
So are you telling me what's been said? What did the text message say?
So we've been informed by a member of public on that train.
Right.
Described yourself and said that you allegedly made reference to the Holocaust. So obviously we've it's made him feel uncomfortable.
Made what reference have you? Is there what's specific about what I've said? I made reference to the Holocaust. So on the train, someone has said that I've made an offensive comment that's made reference to the Holocaust.
Denying the Holocaust is what the allegation.
Denying the Holocaust. Okay.
Obviously, we're going to be looking at this matter.
Yeah.
As I arrived at my train station, I was met by the British Transport Police off the train. And I could see they were looking at me up and down as if they were trying to identify me. As you know, I've had interactions with the police, and I'm aware of. I know the police, and they told me that they had received a text message from a passenger on the train, and I am being investigated now for alleged racially aggravated public order offence. Specifically, I'm being accused of Holocaust denial.
Okay, so there you go.
Wild.
Yeah, that's insane. So
I mean, remember that there's 3,000, 4,000, I don't know what it was, but that have been arrested for simply holding signs that said, I support Palestine action. So, I mean, it's a form of civil disobedience, sure, but it just speaks to how, I mean, when I first arrived here many years ago, 17, 18 years ago, I was just shocked at how different it is from the US. I'm not trying to say the US is good in any way, but it does have some protections around free speech in a way that I think it just doesn't really exist here. It's kind of I mean, there is some free speech, but around this stuff, it's just like it's mad.
Yeah, it really is crazy. And we have another recent conviction that you just talked about. Luckily, it seems like they were the press, as you said, the restrictions have been lifted today. It's come to light that they are not being sentenced based on criminal damage. And it's referring to the Filton 24. But as Asa Winstanley reported, Justice Johnson secretly ruled that there was a terrorist connection due to the activists attempting to influence the Israeli government by restricting weapon sales. Which, again, you kind of can't make that up. But what else are your thoughts on the way that this is being weaponized against free speech?
Well, I think that it's that, if you look at, for example, if you go to a demonstration here, if you have any signs that are even remotely make people feel uncomfortable. So there was this debate that happened not long ago with Zach Belansky, the leader of the Green Party, and Trevor Phillips, who's like this charlatan who runs he's a moderator on a major show. And he was pushing him to say, when Jewish people, mind you, Zach Belansky is Jewish. They said when Jewish people feel uncomfortable at these demonstrations, they feel uncomfortable. That in itself, according to equalities legislation, makes it legitimate, right? And so it's this kind of, I don't know equalities legislation enough, but it seems kind of bizarre to me that that's all it takes for cases of and so these Palestine demonstrations, there are every other week there was between 300,000 to sometimes 800,000 people marching on them, and there's been a nonstop 24/7 propaganda that these are hate marches, and it's like you have the state stepping in, you have this whole infrastructure that goes into play based on there may be some people there who have said globalize the intifada. Now, this globalize the intifada thing, I don't know about you, Katie, but I've been to every demonstration. I've never heard anyone say it. I've never even heard a sign. It's not really a thing. Like, I think it comes from a Loki song. You know, Loki, the
of course,
rapper. Yeah, so it's like, I think he said globalize the intifada in one of his songs. That's the only place I've actually heard it. Like, where have we heard it? Obviously, there's an argument for what intifada means and all that stuff, but I'm like, I don't know where they picked this up, because I think the from a river to the sea thing doesn't really work anymore. And so it's like, support the resistance has been extended to mean you support a prescribed organization. Qassam and Hamas and Hezbollah are prescribed organizations. So anything that could imply that you support a prescribed organization is enough to be arrested under terrorism charges. I mean, we have to remember that Hezbollah was prescribed in 2018 deliberately. This isn't some conspiracy. We know this to be true because Jeremy Corbyn had worked with Hezbollah and had photos with Hezbollah. I mean, not worked with, but it just had meetings. He was a prime minister, or he was a minister for decades, from 1984 to then, right? And still is. They then prescribe Hezbollah to then be like he was hanging out with terrorists. I mean, it was literally like after the fact. So anyways, anything can be extended to mean you support a prescribed organization. Now that the prime minister said he's going to prescribe the IRGC, which is insane. But
right, yes, that is insane. And tell us your thoughts about the blockade, the war in Iran, what the view is from the UK, and what your thoughts on are on how this connects to what's happening in Gaza.
Wait, tell me that again. Sorry, it's like
for that.
12:30 here. I'm reading
Oh,
some of
yeah.
your notes. They're like, "Hey, he's not acting cohesive." I'm like, my brain is jumbled, guys. I'm
do
sorry.
not look, as Brad says, do not look at the comments. The comments are like the sun. By the way, yeah, and Charlotte, by the way, sorry, someone, I'm sending you. Speaking of confusion, I'm sending you 2 numbers, Charlotte, that you can reach out to contact the person who you are private messaging in case the person who we were private messaging doesn't see them. Thank you so much for that. You know what? Here, let me just, but as Brad says, just ignore the comments. Those people
right.
are haters. You're more coherent than
Okay.
people are like midday,
Oh, thanks, Katie. Sorry. I didn't take it personally. I was just like, okay, I want to be coherent.
But yes, I also have to not look at them. But let's actually, why don't we talk a little bit about your research on Yemen?
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I wrote this paper a few months ago. Well, it was published a few months ago in Antipode or Antipodes. This is a geography journal. But basically, that I would argue now that what you're seeing in the Strait of Hormuz, I don't know this for certain, but it seems the lessons of the Strait of Hormuz come from Yemen and the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. So the blockade that happened there, and this is Ansar Allah or the Houthis, who imposed a blockade of the Bab el-Mandeb Strait and the Strait of Aden, or the Gulf of Aden, in order, right after the genocide began, so in November of 2023, imposed this blockade. This is one of the poorest countries in the world. They don't have a navy. And so it's the first time in history you've had a naval blockade that's been successful from a force with no navy. This is the first time in history because navies are both the most resource intensive, but also imposing naval blockades was only possible with the most well-resourced armadas because of supply lines, and it's just very difficult to impose them. So only the most well-resourced throughout history were able to do that. And the argument of the paper is basically that it's both the combination of access to sort of cheap ballistics and cruise missiles and drones, that is obviously very important, but also the fact that you've had this kind of transformation of maritime capitalism. And that over the course of really the 1960s, when you had containerization where you had the standard container before that, and that increased basically 10-fold, 20-fold, some people say 30-fold, the efficiency of transport. That efficiency became, as you become more standardized, this is like Adam Smith has this thing where he talks about the pin factory. As you get more standardization, you get more labor-intensive technology, or capital-intensive technology. As you get more technology, it becomes harder and harder to replace the place that you were in. So what happened is that you had, for example, until the late 1980s, you had the largest ship was 4,520 equivalent units. So that was the unit of measure. Now it's five times that. So what that means is if they attack, and we know this from the evidence, the paper describes this, but if they successfully attack a single ship, that the liabilities went through the roof. So they successfully attacked a few ships. Within a matter of weeks, all the major firms refused to transport goods through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. They added an additional 2 weeks, which put enormous amounts of pressure, was more costly, and it was a way of putting pressure on Israel. So it was very, very successful in that sense. So then you had Biden go in and try to break it up with a coalition of 20 countries, the Prosperity Guardian, unsuccessful. Then you had Trump try to do it, again, unsuccessful, and he signs an agreement without even discussing it with Israel first. Why is that important? Because the Bab el-Mandeb Strait is not nearly as significant as, because it's 2 ways. You come from the Mediterranean and Suez Canal, and it comes up through the Gulf of Aden from the Indian Ocean. Because the Strait of Hormuz is only one directional. There's no outlet. It's like an inlet, right? So, and it's probably 10 times as important. And you have Iran, which is about 100 times more well-resourced. They look at this and they are able to impose, they're able to predict what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz precisely because of the success of the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. And that's why, because they're like, Trump was like, we'll destroy them. The second day he goes, we've destroyed their entire navy. That doesn't matter. Yemen were able to do it without any navy. And so they know that it's all it takes is a few missiles. And, there's 10 insurance companies that basically run everything. They're based in London. They're not going to insure any of those ships. It's also the case that, these tankers, these VLCCs, these very large crude carriers, they're the size of 4 football pitches. They weigh as much as a skyscraper.
You're so British.
Huh?
Your foot so British
Football
already.
Oh, it's a football thing, very fields. Don't insult me like this, Katie. I think it's and it it carries between 2 to 3 million barrels of crude oil, and it moves at about 10 to 15 knots. That's the speed of a bicycle. So something that might begin in the beginning of March will take 2 months to impact the global economy. So we're not really feeling the effects, of course, but it's basically that laid the groundwork, I think. Of course, I have no way of knowing this for certain for why the Iranians were so certain that they would be successful in the Strait of Hormuz.
Interesting, very interesting. And I wanted to ask you if you had any tips, because we actually have 2 clips that I want to show of you doing very well talking to adversarial media. And I do want to show them because I think it is actually an important skill for the left to have. And so we're going to show those. Nate, I think there was a miscommunication. If you could text them to Brad, that would be great. What overall are your tips for how to deal with adversarial media?
Okay, yeah. So it depends kind of, adversarial media is very different, obviously, than doing like BBC or Sky or whatever, where they'll just ask you questions. In the adversarial media, I think it's really a question of, it kind of depends on who it is, but, Mehdi Hassan, despite being an annoying liberal, is very, very skilled at this, is that you can latch on to a specific thing they do. So for example, this recent interview, I was like, okay, they're going to come out with, there's all these anti-Semitic claims. And there are some things that people said that is like, obviously, they shouldn't be a candidate in the party, right? But there are lots of things that people say which is like critical of the Israeli state or critical of the IDF, or even being conspiratorial about, was Israel behind the October 7th? I mean, I don't agree with that. I think it strips Palestinians of agency, but I don't think it's anti-Semitic. I mean, there are anti-Semitic conspiracies. Not all conspiracies that deal with the state of Israel are anti-Semitic. Well, anyways, so I don't think it's correct. Anyways, but they so the point is to what this tactic here was to try to focus on that. So when they ask you like an antagonistic question, you go acknowledge for this and then pivot and focus on the things that you want to talk about, And I think a lot of people get bogged down with, I've got to answer the right. The point isn't, it's like when I was a kid, my dad took me around South India, and you go to these temples, and it's like, all the noses are chopped off the idols of these temples. And I was like, why are they chopped off? And he's like, look, when a tribe or a army from a different religion comes and defeats this, they go to the temple and they chop off the noses, and they go, look, your gods couldn't even save you. And then everyone converts, right? They don't have to forcibly convert anyone because everyone converts. Here, these are the sort of physical embodiments of a right-wing ideology of Zionism or whatever. They're the manifestations of that. If you can humiliate them, this isn't like the marketplace of ideas. The point here is to humiliate them with ideas, but trip them up or whatever, to the point where they don't seem confident. Their idols, their gods are humiliated. And in that way, if there's any benefit to this, it's to then humiliate the ideology and discredit the ideology by humiliating the messenger of that ideology.
Right, exactly. So we have 2 clips that I wanted to show. One is where you're talking about the rise of sectarian campaigning, alleged rise of sectarian campaigning. And one is where you speak to Julia Hartley Brewer about the Green Party anti-Semitism scandal. Brad, do we have, I believe in the document, let's see, those would be, one second, Brad. One is A03. That's the sectarian one. And then let me know if you have either of those ones that Nate just texted you to, Brad. Are either of those uploaded?
Yes.
Okay.
The
sectarian one, right?
Sectarian campaigning, yes.
Yeah,
and then
03, yeah.
And then the Julie Hartley Brewer,
Yeah.
I just needed 30 seconds.
Sure, great. Okay, so we're going to start with the Ashok. We're going to start with the sectarian clip. What should people know about this?
It's called GB News, and it's I guess it's Fox News, and it's very popular. And the other people I'm there with are MPs from all the other parties. So you had right next to me the Labour Party MP, then you had a Lib Dem, and then you had the Tory. Oh, then you had the moderator, then the Tory, and then Reform. And it went from left to right. The Green Party has a policy of not sending elected officials to them, so that's why it's like these kind of outriders that they send out to.
Right, I see. Right. Yeah. Okay, so, and if you want, by the way, we can remove you if you need to get a glass of water or anything, because I know it's late. We can
I'm just going to get water.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, we don't need to remove you, actually. So we're going to play that sectarian video.
I mean, to be fair, Katie, his background is pretty enough that
I know, we can put it up. Yeah, I want to know who that
just
woman
looking
is
at
on
that.
the right, too.
Is that like a tapestry?
Partisan?
She's a worker.
Oh, okay. Worker, okay.
Beautiful.
Like it's like the male, and that's a male in the back. He's got like a little sickle, and then she has a hammer.
What country is it from?
India.
Very cool.
Kerala?
South India, right next to India, right next to Kerala, Karnataka.
Okay, cool. We have to do another show on that. Okay, so here he is. Here is Ashok on GB.
Is this Gaza or Great Britain?
Right,
what about this?
This is your chance to bring change to your streets and to your roads. So you must come out, vote for.
And here is some independents celebrating their victory. Do you not think that sectarianism is going to be an issue for your party, as we were talking about before, the church is so broad of the Greens?
Alex, I have to say, those videos are just shocking. You know, brown people speaking, brown people dancing, brown people voting, brown people being involved in their community. Shocking scenes. Not Britain, not the Britain I know, you know? Frankly, I don't know how we put a stop to it. We've demanded they integrate for decades. We're like, they're not integrating, and now they're involved in the political process, and we're like, how dare they be part of the political process? What are we going to do about it? The main party's got to do something about it. One day, someone could be voting for a Labour Party politician or a Tory Party politician. They go into a ballot box, they vote green, and all of a sudden, he's an Islamist, and it's sectarian. Oh my God, what are we going to do? I mean, this is just obviously silly.
What we're seeing today, I'm afraid, is the politics of Gaza and other causes around the world being imported to the streets of the United Kingdom. And most British people don't want it. So I hope that the Green Party will start to respect the vast majority of British people in this country who care about their communities and their country. They don't want to know about Gaza. What they want to know is about where they live and the best interest of the United Kingdom.
Can I respond to this?
Yeah, go on briefly, and then I'll bring in the others.
Well, you don't get to decide what people care about. We've gotten the second largest vote share in the country with 18%. That means people care about the politics that we're putting forward. And it's not that we provided the arms so Israel could perpetrate a genocide. We provided the intelligence so they can perpetrate a genocide. Our government is doing that. This isn't some politics. We're spending resources, money, and the moral fiber of our society in order to defend a state that's perpetrating a genocide. That's what people are against. You're going around telling me, let me finish. What does deporting people have to do with local elections? You're running on one policy. Let's deport all the brown people. And so that, but you're running that. You're running that on local. You think local councillors? You think local councillors have the power to do that, Rich? Do you think local councillors have the power to do that?
The Reform UK government will do it.
Yeah, but the Reform UK ran on that for local elections.
More room
Why did
for
you run
housing,
that
for hospitals. We don't have police. We don't have the school places to have huge numbers of people coming into our country.
You don't have the power to do that.
We don't have the infrastructure.
You don't have the power to do that.
Okay, all right. I think the argument back is you wouldn't have the power to stop what's going on in Gaza.
No, but the things that we are running on locally is to say, for example, pension funds at the local level should be divested from companies that are profiting from and a number. Waltham Forest, other councils that have voted on this also went green.
Okay.
Sorry, it's muted. Very good scaremongering at the opening. I love that montage of different brown people.
But it was also crazy. It was just like these literally they're like getting elected, they're killing the game, and they're like, and then also they're just dancing. They just won. That's from, I think that last one was from Redbridge. They just like sweeped it, and they're just like dancing. They said they're Punjabi, and they're like, oh, look at these monsters. They're dancing. Can you believe they're dancing? Like, what are we supposed to do? You just want us to die? Like, what the fuck is this?
No.
Okay, you can curse it, right? Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, in one clip they dare to speak another language, and then in another one they're speaking English. They're just
he looks like a kind of he's got like a Pakistani or Bangladeshi thing, right? And they're like, look, the guy, he's wearing those clothes. He's not wearing jeans.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
It's really insane. Yeah.
And the guy from the right, like the reform guy, he's like a ghoulishly fascistic person. He used to be a Tory. He's very pro-Israel, has done multiple trips to Israel. He's like very Zionist. He's like, what does this have to do with this? It's like your entire politics is about being a kind of factotum to the Zionist entity. So it just felt like, and also they only run on one policy. There's only one policy, which is we're going to deport everyone. It's no relevance to local politics, but that's why he was kind of like, he was kind of floundering a little bit when pushed on that.
Right. Yeah. That was insane. Well, that was pretty great. And then we have this other one where you are talking about the anti-Semitism issue. Tell us with Julia Hartley, what does the non-UK audience need to know about her?
So the one that we just watched was the night after the election, and this one was a few days before, and they basically were running this kind of massive smear. It was that morning that the Labour Party had dropped this dossier of like 30 councillors who are like, and it was all like Zach Polanski's face all mangled, and it was all like kind of like scary green font, and it was like, this is why they're. It's the same tactic they did the sort of right of the Labour Party did under Jeremy Corbyn, and it was like all these terrible things they were saying. There was also like some accusations of racism, accusations of sexism. The Party Central, the Green Party Central, had sort of been like, yeah, we'll investigate people. That's it. They were like, just because the party's expended so much, they don't have necessarily the resources, and there isn't the political cohesion to like have your message discipline to be like, no, this is like, these are just. There's a process in which you can file things and blah, blah, blah. So they're like just investigating. And then they made that a headline, like they're investigating 30 people. Like to be investigated doesn't mean anything. It just means a complaint is launched and we are now responding to the complaint.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. It's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you respond to it, it's a problem. If you ignore it, it's a problem.
If you acknowledge it, you go, yes, this is an issue. Then they're like, do you have a problem with anti-Semitism? Why won't you apologize? Blah, 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 you know.
An issue. Yeah, exactly, yeah.
It's like feeding blood to wolves. You think, oh, that'll satisfy them. They're like, no, now they want your hand and your face.
Right, exactly. Wolves.
Yeah.
All right, so let's take a look at this.
Wait, is that a trope? Did I just do a trope?
No.
Okay.
All
right, shit. Shit, I don't know. I'm just like, I just meant in general. Wolves. I mean, she's not even Jewish.
Wolves
she's not
is
even
actually
Jewish.
very coded language for Jews. I'm just kidding. Not at all. That would be funny. If like that was what you missed.
I don't even know.
Living in the UK, the rise of the wolf as Jew.
I don't know. I'm sorry. We could talk more about issues, but I don't think.
Okay, well, let's do that. Let's talk about issues.
Okay.
One thing I think we can all agree is a big story is the fact that we are seeing a massive increase in physical and verbal attacks on Jews in this country. The stabbing of 2 Jewish men by an alleged suspect currently who's already been charged, believed to be an Islamist attack, has caused great concern. We've big summits in Downing Street, and we're going to be fast-tracking hate crime prosecutions and the like. Now, there's no doubt at all there is a problem of anti-Semitism within the Green Party, because the Green Party itself is investigating no less than 30 candidates who have been publicly identified as having posted or said or written blatantly anti-Semitic things, calling Jews vermin, rats, celebrating the October 7th massacre, suggesting that Hamas are, resistance fighters. I mean, you are a Green Party activist. Let's talk about the issues. Is it an issue if you support a party and a party has as much support as the Green Party has garnered in recent months, which is basically siding with Islamist extremists and anti-Semites and is putting up candidates in local elections who are blatantly, outrageously, disgustingly racist against Jews?
Okay, so firstly, we have over 4,500 candidates. We've gone from a party 6 months ago that was 60,000 to now having 230,000. And so, yeah, of course, needs to be a more thorough vetting process. But it's not that those 30 candidates are being investigated for anti-Semitism. They're being investigated for a series of comments, some of them racist, some of them sexist, or the accusations of that. They haven't been found guilty of that. And a large proportion of them are guilty of being critical of the state of Israel. Some of them, of course, are anti-Semitic, but a lot of them aren't. I think.
But no one's being investigated for being critical of Israel.
That's not true. That's not true. The list was released by Labor dossier this morning. I'm sure you've seen it. And they are, for example, retweeting the Bob Dylan lyrics about debt to the IDF. I'm sorry, Julia, but that's not a crime. We're allowed to criticize and even call for the death of a foreign army. If I said debt to the IRGC, should that be criminalized? If I said debt to the Russian army, should that be criminalized? Should I be deselected as a Labor candidate or a Reform candidate?
The vast majority of these candidates are being investigated.
I think there are parties that have platforms, and those platforms are the policies upon which we run on. Individuals who may have tweeted things years ago out of a massive list of candidates, I think that is not an accurate representation of the party. And I think I would say the same thing for Labor. I'd say the same thing for Reform.
I think when it continues to happen again and again and again, and you're saying it's a vetting problem, you could argue, why do those people think that the Green Party is the home for them?
Do you think that Reform is a racist and sexist party because of the dossier that was released by Labor last week?
But I think they do have a problem.
Why is it one rule? Why is it one rule for Reform and one rule for?
No, but I didn't say the Green Party was anti-Semitic. I said you've got a problem with anti-Semitism. It's a different thing, isn't it?
I don't think there's a problem with anti-Semitism. I think that a small proportion of candidates who've said things in the past, they're being now investigated.
There are questions about
candidates is an indication.
There are questions about the likes on posts and the retweeting posts from not only Zach Polanski but also both deputy leaders as well. That would suggest there is an issue.
Tell me specifically.
There are so many pieces of paper in front of me.
There's so many.
I'll message you afterwards, but you will have seen them.
I want to know. Please inform your viewers. I haven't seen them. I'd like to know which leaders have
absolutely plenty of them. I'm desperately trying to find them right now. Well, I will. I'm
literally in the edge of my seat, waiting for you to give us this vital breaking news. The anti-Semites are running the party.
I'm held back by the fact I can't actually leave through things with plaster on my fingers, but there we are.
Oh, no.
Well, these are issues. Green Party leader shared a conspiracy theory. Rachel Millward, co-deputy leader, shared a conspiracy theory about the Golders Green attack in which 2 men were stabbed, shared a post which claimed a third victim the day was Muslim had been erased to suit a weaponised, desperate narrative. I mean, that's just one example. Mohsen Ali is
how is that an example? You just read out, for example, earlier, said there were 2 victims of that attack. In fact, there was 3 victims. The first victim was Muslim. Why is it an anti-Semitic or conspiratorial? Why haven't we mentioned that? The Prime Minister didn't mention that. The media hasn't mentioned that. There was the first victim was Muslim. Do Muslim lives not matter?
He wasn't hospitalised. I think the attack was aimed at Jews. Is the viewpoint pretty much? Anybody involved.
But why not even mention that a Muslim was attacked first? And he was hospitalized, actually. But, his name's Ishmael Hussein. He was hospitalized. And we should name that his life matters, too. That's not anti-Semitic. That's not anti-Jewish hatred to simply mention the other person that was also stabbed.
Well, no, I think it's not the mention of it. It's the idea that the reason it's not mentioned is because of the conspiracy. Let's talk about.
Julia, let me just ask you. Do you think that people should that you should have mentioned that earlier in your program?
On the day they talked about 2. On the day when I was on air on the Thursday after that event had happened, and I went to Golders Green, there was only talk of 2 victims at the time.
But do you think it's a problem that we don't mention?
Only spoke about 2 victims at the time. If you want to take that up the Metropolitan Police, that's an issue. Isn't it?
But then you've just given the story and you've only mentioned 2 of the victims. I think three were stabbed.
Okay, but the Met Police and the Prime Minister, the Met Police and the Prime Minister keep talking about 2 Jewish men being stabbed.
Yeah, but you're a journalist. You're a leading journalist. You're a leading journalist in this country.
They weren't the people being targeted. Who was being targeted?
Who do you believe was being targeted? A Muslim and 2 Jewish people.
And you think the Muslim was targeted because he was Muslim?
Well, I don't know, but I don't think we should not mention that. I don't know the full story.
You've mentioned him, but there we are. Can I talk to you about? I've got very little time.
Maybe I'm guilty of conspiracy theories because I mentioned it.
Well, you think there's a conspiracy theory behind? I don't think there is, and I think suggesting there's
there's no conspiracy.
Okay, can I mention? Can I talk about some other policies? For the love of God, please Ashok. Please. We've got very little time. I mean.
I love that. It's like she's like I'm trying my best to be a stenographer for these institutions, who do not mention that there's a Muslim. So can you please stop demanding that I not do that?
The other thing they say, oh, what's your advice on things? It's like when your opponent is on the ropes, don't let them go.
Right, yeah.
Keep hammering, because it's about destroying the object of the ideology.
Right. No, it was
But
great.
yeah.
And also you didn't insult, it wasn't offensive and it wasn't insulting. So it was it was perfect. If I do say so myself. Yeah.
Thanks, Katie. That's very kind.
Yeah. Of course, yeah.
But yeah, I think that the thing is, it's I would just say this, and you have people like, you know, I won't name specific names of people in the party who've been in it for a long time, who look what's happening, and they want to placate, and they want to say no. So there was someone who was on election night doing a mainstream show, and they say, what about these problems? She's like, we're dealing with it. They have no role in the party. I'm like, you think that will satisfy people? You think you're doing the right thing. No, that's why she says, I didn't say you're anti-Semitic. I said you have a problem. So then what happens is they say, you would agree that a little bit that it's a problem. The minute you say, yeah, okay, maybe we have a problem, then it's like, look at what happened to Corbyn. He then finally was forced to say there's a problem. Then he's like, apologize. Like he was even apologizing over and over again. It was like, he doesn't apologize. He needs to apologize. Does he condemn this? Does he condemn that? You're just drowning in the shit.
Yeah, exactly. Even a Green Party activist admits this is an issue, right?
Exactly.
Well, I want to have you back on because I could ask you about so many other things. I want to hear about India. The whole thing, all of India. No,
I'm down.
I want to hear about what you learned from your dad, and I want to hear about.
I don't know why I gave that story. It's late.
I remember seeing that in the Monkey Island or something in Bombay.
It's all over me. You have the noses chopped off and lots of the things.
And I think the Portuguese use them for target practice. I want to ask about that, and also about political economy stuff, and also historical materialism. So we'll have to have you back on. You are going to be our U.S. Wait, are you a U.S. citizen? Are you a U.S. citizen?
I am. Yeah.
Okay, you are going to be our U.S. citizen living in UK Stringer.
Sick.
No one else does that demographic.
Sick. I'm down.
Yeah, great. Awesome. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me.
Coming on. Yes.
Amazing.
And thanks for staying up so late. And we will have you on again. And
Sweet.
I want to thank you, by the way. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. All right. This has been a great show, and it's so much fun. And I'm so grateful to everyone who's joined the show. That was a cool little move. All right, we're gonna try to bring on another guest. It may be technically a little challenging, but for this guy, it's nothing compared to the other feats that he's managed to achieve. So we are going to try to bring on our next guest, Guido Reichstadter, who is a former Marine, a father of two, and he was arrested last Wednesday after occupying the Frederick Douglass Memorial Bridge for 5 days, calling for mass nonviolent civil disobedience to bring an immediate end to the war on Iran and to remove the Trump regime from power, as well as to raise the urgent alarm on the danger of artificial intelligence. So welcome, Guido.
Hey.
Hi, thanks for joining. Of course.
And I have a really amazing guest. This is Leigha.
All right, yeah. This is I like this. What would you call this? Like reality TV, reality YouTube, where you one guest brings on another guest.
Yes.
I mean, luckily, this is not like a member of the Reform Party of the UK or someone fascist. So we did not get a chance to vet this candidate, but I assume that they're going to be on the right side of history. So do you want to introduce Leigha, and then we'll talk about you, and then.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So on the final, I ran out of water on Sunday, and I ran out of food.
Wait, just set up what you did before we bring on Leigha. We're gonna we'll just mention you before we bring on your guest. Tell people what you did and why.
Okay. Yeah. So last week on May 1st, Friday, I climbed the Frederick Douglass Memorial Bridge in Washington D.C. and unfurled a black banner from the top of the bridge, and put out a public call to action for nonviolent civil disobedience to end the war immediately, and to remove the Trump regime from power, because these are acts of mass murder that are being committed in the names of every person in the United States, and we have a responsibility to the world and to ourselves to resist them and reject them. And so I stayed up there for 5 days till Wednesday morning. The story, went around the world, and it was, picked up by Al Jazeera and New York Times. And
yeah, I couldn't believe it. The New York Times and the Washington Post. Actually, we have a video of this, Brad. I want to show it so people can get a sense of what this looked like. And that would be
coming right up.
Yes, that is, what is that?
Is that B1, Katie?
Exactly. Yep, B1. Perfect. Thank you. Man comes down from DC Bridge after 5 days of protesting war and AI.
Hands off Iran! Hands off Iran! Hands off Iran! Hands off Iran!
So your food ran out Saturday morning. You've been without water for 5 days?
Yeah.
And he tracked down a ladder hidden within the arch. Officials received him in a fire truck basket. Once with officials, he was placed in handcuffs and taken away in an ambulance. So I wanted to know, before we bring on your guest, what your experience in the army was like and how that shaped your views of the world, because I know you grew up in an evangelical home. And I assume evangelical conservative. So talk about your kind of political trajectory, your ideological trajectory.
Yeah, I definitely grew up in a kind of conservative, culturally conservative Christian household. Had a very one-sided, propagandized view of what U.S. policy and the U.S. presence in the world was. And I joined the Marines out of high school to, fight for freedom and democracy, basically. And it wasn't until I got to university, a friend of mine basically confronted me on it. He showed me a documentary of nuns that had been killed in El Salvador with by death squads trained in the United States, the Americas.
Right.
And blew open this whole aspect of history that, and one thing led to another. By the time, I went in for very ideological reasons to make the world a better place, right? And when I realized that essentially I was on the wrong side, it was not hard to refuse cooperation. And when the second Iraq invasion came around in 2003, I saw the lies that everything was blatantly being orchestrated around. And I told my commanding officers, I said, I'm refusing to train. I'm not going to train. I'm not going to deploy. You can do what you want with me, but I'm not going to fight in this war. And the GI Rights Hotline, and they kind of walked me through the process of applying for conscientious objector status, which was in fact granted. So, excuse me.
And did you actually fight? Did you actually serve?
I know, yes. I was never in combat, never deployed. I refused to deploy to a unit was activated, and I did not go.
Okay, got it. And what are your thoughts on why this war in Iran is happening? Why is this war of choice being launched by Trump?
I mean, it's a Israeli-American war of choice, right? It's being fought to advance Israel's interest in the region, and this conception of the United States as a partner in securing hegemony.
Right. And what about the role of AI? Because I know that's something you protest.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the targets in the opening salvo of the war, probably even the school in which hundreds of school children were killed, was the reporting is that these targets were selected by AI systems, and we should expect, that as these systems grow in capability, they will become even more lethal and effective weapons of warfare. That's what they're essentially being designed as tools of global domination, essentially, as well as domestic, pushing for the fascist domestic project to seize power, which facilitates naked aggression across the world through violence and social control.
And just curious, were you able to bring your family with you, like ideologically and politically?
I hope that I'm divorced from my ex-wife, and ideological, grounds were part of that, actually. But I hope that I've set an example, and I try to set an example for my children by my actions to encourage them to do what's right, regardless of what it costs.
Okay, sorry about that. That was not intentional. That was not me. I'm not like anti-divorce or something. I didn't leave.
Sorry, I lost the audio.
Oh, no. I'm just saying I didn't leave for ideological reasons. Can you hear me now? Oh, no.
Can't
Okay.
hear you.
Yeah, Katie, I think that the problem is what we've encountered before, and I think that the solution is for him to leave and come back.
Okay.
But I'm not sure the best way.
Tell him that. Yeah.
Yeah, let me get on that. Okay.
Okay, great. Yeah. You still can't hear him, right? Can you refresh? Let's see if he understands this. Refresh.
Reload.
Yeah. Reload. Look at that. That was great. This is a very fun episode. Very fun stream. Thanks, everyone. If you haven't already liked the stream, make sure you do. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. Okay, I meant like the family from like the evangelical family from which you came, but
Oh yeah, absolutely. My definitely. I have two younger brothers, and even my mother has gone. She's moved on her own political journey over time.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely. I think.
Awesome. That is, I'm a secular Jew, but I do feel like Jesus's message is pretty clear on this, to my evangelical brothers and sisters out there. And it's not to fight wars. Obviously all religions have been, there have been, this is a whole other debate, but obviously people have used all religions to both be pro-war or anti-war, pro-slavery, anti-slavery. So that's something that, is a historical, truth. So do you want to bring on quickly, because we do have to bring on our next segment, but I would love to meet Leigha, because anyone running against Steny Hoyer is a friend of mine.
Awesome.
Hi, Leigha.
So, Leigha,
Hi.
Leigha basically volunteered for a midnight supply run to try and resupply the occupation so it could keep going. Unfortunately, we weren't able to pull it off, but
right.
We were hoping to kayak, and the water was too rough.
Oh, got it.
The wind was too much. I was going to stop on the bridge, but the rope he had was too far out. So we gave it a good go.
Yeah. And so tell us about your campaign, who you're running against and why. And
so there's 24 of us. And over the past year, I've been sitting in these congressional hearings and seeing how congressional members just joke with each other and then tell us to fight. And once I saw the person that Steny Hoyer endorsed and who the establishment endorsed, I knew I had to jump in because he's an Oracle lobbyist. And his name is listed as someone who helped push for data centers. In fact, the executive order that was signed, he helped lobby for. And then he lobbied after the big, beautiful bill for billionaires to implement it for taking Medicaid from people through Oracle.
Wow.
And that's disgusting. And then he's also taken pro-Israel money already.
Right.
So that's
all right. Cool.
We need someone in there that's not like that. We already had 45 years of Hoyer.
Right. Oh, wow. Yeah. And what is your platform?
So obviously no war, no doing anything for Israel like this, healthcare for all, and actually fighting. The big thing is that we need congressional members, we need leaders who are going to tell people the reality of what's happening and what can be done about it. Like, we're not going to go in this time and legislate everything away. There's going to be a whole lot more that needs done, and we need to tell the public, we need you on the streets. We need you to show up to these protests. We need your help too. And they're not doing that. I mean, most of what will happen over the next 2 years, if Democrats get the majority, is holding stuff off.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, what else? Okay. I will, final question for you, Guido. What charges are you facing now?
So I'm facing one federal count of unlawful entry and one district count of failure to obey an officer. And I have a public defender currently And I'm also facing charges back in San Francisco. I missed court while I was up on the bridge, so I have 3 bench warrants for locking the doors of OpenAI shut and defying a court order to go back and do that again. So
Okay. Wow. Well, thank you for doing everything that you did. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And best of luck to you. And final question is, how do you think the connection between AI and the military can allow the two movements, the anti-war movement and the anti-AI movement, to combine into a larger movement?
No, definitely. There's a lot of grassroots movement against data centers right now. Especially people are realizing these are essentially surveillance centers. They're building the infrastructure for mass surveillance, for social control. And the population is broad, both domestically and across the world, is broadly against the war. And excuse me, what is crucially needed right now is the organization, in order to withdraw our support from the system in a coordinated way, to exert massive political pressure through nonviolent non-cooperation. And I believe that's our right, and it's our duty. And when we come together, we have that power too.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
You too. All righty, we have our final segment, which everyone is so excited for. And if you haven't already liked the stream, please do like the stream. Just give it a thumbs up. Again, if you're joining us now and you haven't already subscribed, we're so excited because we have reached 450,000 subscribers. So thank you everyone for doing that. We are now going to bring on 3 guests who were involved in the land sale protest in Brooklyn on Monday night. And we're going to get into what this land sale even means. But we're bringing on to the show 2 people who were there. That's Rahma Zein and Rabbi Feldman, as well as someone who is involved in Al-Awda. And that is Terri Kay. So Rabbi Dovid Feldman is a spokesman for Neturei Karta International, a religious Jewish anti-Zionist organization, which is active in giving publicity to the voice of opposition of many Jewish communities around the world to the Zionist ideology. Rabbi Feldman and his colleagues have visited the besieged Gaza Strip, where they delivered to the oppressed population truckloads of medical aid, including an ambulance purchased with tens of thousands of dollars they collected. They were warmly received there, as well as in other Arab countries. Terri Kay is an active member of Al-Awda, New York, New Jersey, and co-leads their Stolen Land campaign. And Al-Awda NYNJ is a community organization mobilizing for Palestinian liberation, grounded in the inalienable right of return. And we are also bringing back onto the show the great Egyptian journalist Rahma Zein, who is now with Tech for Palestine. So welcome, Terri, Rahma, and Rabbi. Hi. Hi, everyone.
Katie.
Hi. Thank you so much for joining. So tell us, Rabbi and Rahma, you were both there. What did you observe? And we actually have video of each of you. And then Terri, you can tell us what you were doing kind of behind the scenes. But maybe actually, Terri, do you want to set up what these land sale events are and why you're protesting them? And then we'll bring on the Rabbi and Rahma to talk about what you guys witnessed.
Sure, I'd be happy to. And thanks for having us on. This particular land sale series was a very large one. There was it was sponsored by Home in Israel and included links to Leumi Bank, an Israeli bank that happens to have offices in New York City. And what they do is they advertise stolen Palestinian land. And these events are trying to set up sales of this land to whoever comes to their event. Now, these events, we just had a protest last week in Manhattan, and I was on the ground there. In the one last night, I was there, but in my car helping with some coordination and comms. But anyways, we've been fighting these stolen Palestinian land sales for a good 2-3 years now. They happen all over not only New York City area, but New Jersey, and we've been supporting folks and involved in protests there as well. But essentially, these real estate companies exist in Israel for the most part and just come here specifically for these land sales to put on their shows, but they hide legally in Israel where they can't be sued by American laws, etc. And they just use local sponsors. And the thing about these sales, which gives them the notoriety when we protest them, is they almost always have these land sales inside of synagogues. And they and then we're accused of being anti-Semitic for protesting, as if we're protesting the synagogue, as if we have protests at synagogues all the time, which we never do unless there's a stolen land sale, right? So on top of that, in addition to the fact that they hide them in synagogues, they restrict the access to Jews only, and mostly just the strictly Orthodox Jews, because they're trying to get people to buy the stolen Palestinian land, and also they're trying to recruit people to join the IOF, the Israeli Occupation Forces. And so it's a double whammy there in terms of both trying to get people to move on to land that is actually the homes, or was the homes of Palestinians who are being evicted. And right now there's very heavy increase in settlements in the West Bank, where the government, the Israeli government, is just doing very intentional invasion of whole villages and towns, and tearing down homes and tearing down the agriculture, and stealing their livestock and everything to be able to keep them from having a livelihood and an existence. So if that's helpful for a quick setup there.
Oh, no, yeah, that's great. That's great. And I also wanted to note that you are a member of Port Workers and Communities for Palestine, which organizes against Zim, an Israeli shipping company, which is involved with the shipment of weapons to Israel. And you yourself are an anti-Zionist Jew, and your parents escaped from the Holocaust in Hungary. So they were Holocaust survivors. Did they right. escape after, like they lived there during the Holocaust, or did they leave before the Holocaust?
They were there during the Holocaust, but they were underground. So they had fake papers and were moving in the underground network. But all my grandparents and a number of my aunts and uncles were killed during the Holocaust.
And is that kind of heritage, does that shape your view of what's happening right now in Gaza?
Absolutely. I mean, what happened to my family and my parents had absolutely nothing to do with Palestinians, nothing at all. My family was trying to come here to the U.S., and there were quotas against Eastern European Jews for coming to the U.S. because they were trying to get Jewish people to go to Palestine. Right. So, this stealing of the entire land of Palestine to make it this Zionist state is totally outside of anything to do with the Holocaust. The Palestinians aren't the ones who did this. It was the Nazis, as we all know.
Right. And so did your parents move? Where did they go to after Hungary?
Well, they each had a sister who was already in the U.S., but when they applied to come, they were denied as Eastern European Jews. So they wound up leaving Hungary and going to what had just become the state of Israel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that's where I was actually born. I was 2 years old when we left. My parents found out that Canada didn't have immigration quotas. And so I have no memories of there, but we wound up going to Canada until we were able to then immigrate from Canada to the U.S.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And do you see, I mean, a connection between, obviously the Palestinians had nothing to do with what happened to the Jews, but I mean, there are people who are Holocaust survivors or descendants of Holocaust survivors who see, you know, never again, meaning never again, not just for Jews. And so the legacy of never again is about Palestine also.
Right, never again for anyone.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, Rabbi and Rahma, I like the way those roll off the tongue, like that you guys are part of a team. Rabbi and Rahma, tell us about what brought you there and what you observed.
Who's first?
Well, Rabbi.
I'm traditional, so you go with the man of God.
Yeah.
Well, I try to be a man of God. I hope so. Well, what we had is unfortunately not the first time we have this kind of experience, but what was very strange, or for many people, maybe even shocking, when people are told always that, you know, Israel and the Israelis are those polite people of justice, and, you know, this is beautiful, politically correct people. And then, you know, the Palestinians, the Arabs, the Muslims are those radical terrorists. This is what we always hear in the news and so on. What happened last night is something totally different. We came there. There was a couple of hundred of pro-Palestinian people, activists. We had dozens of religious Jews, and we had a very clear message. We were loud, but very disciplined and very peaceful. And then what happened is that those pro-Israelis were so arrogant and so wild and so dangerous and so, terroristic. This was really, this is something I expected. I knew this is going to happen. I know the area and I know the people. But this didn't stop the people. But, these attacks, these assaults, and you're definitely aware what happened to me personally and to other of my colleagues. This shows you an example what happens to people when they come out in public. And no wonder that so many people are intimidated, and they not necessarily have the courage of coming out and expressing their views. Now, many times I'm being asked, what's the opinion of many Jews in the United States or elsewhere regarding Israel? And I always say there are masses of Jewish people who are so frustrated and disturbed and embarrassed by all what's being done in our name. Not everyone has the courage of coming out in public. If you do see a number of either Jewish people or non-Jews coming out, you can only assume and imagine how many more people are behind them, supporting them and sharing the voice. We blame those people doing this intimidation of silencing the voice of so many people, and then end up misleading masses of ignorant people who don't get the chance of learning and understanding what is going on, realizing, like, for example, in our case, where we represent the Jewish religion, we are doing everything we can to help people overcome the propaganda and understand that our people shouldn't be misused, or our religion shouldn't be misused to silence the voice of the righteous. Palestine deserves a voice to speak up for them. Little babies who are being killed, infants who are being killed, deserve a voice, at least in the free world here in the United States or elsewhere. And we should encourage free speech rather than oppressing it.
Yeah. Amen to that. And we actually have a video of you, Rabbi. Is there anything you want to say before you set this up? And this video would be C3, Brad.
I'm not sure exactly which portion of that incident you have, but you might have the full video, which starts with an interesting interaction that happens in these cases, where a pro-Israeli, a pro-Zionist approached me. And this happened a number of times during this rally yesterday. In addition to all those arrogant people just yelling and spitting or physically attacking, hitting and punching, all of that. But many people come over very reasonable questions, which is expected, and they are listening. And this was one example. an older gentleman or a middle-aged gentleman who came over and asked questions. Listening to answers was a very positive conversation. And then somebody comes in and just simply attacks.
Right.
But again, this is expected.
Right. All right. Let's. Yeah. I believe that is zero. Clip 3, Brad. Wow, that woman looks rabid. I'll say that. So no one gets accused of being sexist, but I don't know what other word you can say. She looks crazed. So was that older man, the man between you guys, I assume he was the person asking you kind of and we may have the longer video. I believe, Brad, that Rabbi gave it to put it in
You not necessarily will see much more. You know what
okay,
we
that's
showed
basically
is
it, though. Okay.
exactly. It's excellent. Yeah.
Yeah. So what had you been talking about with him when that woman?
Well, he was asking, how come that I support the enemies of the Jewish people and all of that, and I just very simply explained. I always respond with the question, who is hating and why is anybody hating and where is this hatred directed to? What is going on? I'm trying to ask some questions for people to open their minds. And please try to elaborate what is going on. When Jewish people are attacked, this is something that all of us should be concerned. But let's think about what is going on, what is behind all of this. None of us are happy with what is happening. We're not happy with any reaction happening to any people. But if you want to see a better future, you want to see a change, then we have to understand what's behind it, what's causing all of this.
Right.
And people faced with these questions, many cases, and this was one of them, they start to get confused, which is exactly what these people need. They need to start to question their whatever they were taught until then. People deserve to learn, and mainstream media doesn't help the masses just to learn what's going on.
Right. Exactly. We actually have another video of this same woman who is presenting herself as a victim. The same spitter, and that would be C4, Brad.
Fucking
So this is the woman who spat on you. Then you see her provoking people, giving the finger. Then we hear someone else saying whore. And I believe that that is also a woman who let's see, Talia tweeted this. This is a full clip, okay? Of this incident that we're seeing. But what's interesting is that someone else this is actually fascinating. Brad, do you have that tweet? Okay, perfect. There you go. There it is. Perfect. So here's what's interesting, I should say. So that clip that we just saw, if you scroll down and you'll see, are you able to click on that, Brad, or is that just a screenshot?
It's just a screenshot, but if you'd like, I can give you the full thing that we can scroll through.
Yeah, I think that would be, that would be great. Yeah. And
Okay.
I'll set that up. But yeah. So we just saw, to set everything up, we saw Rabbi Feldman was spat at by a random pro-Israel woman. We think she's random. Who knows what her connections are. And then we just saw that same woman rushing the crowd and spitting and yelling. And then, of course, we see Harmeet K. Dillon, who's the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights at the U.S. Department of Justice, appointed by Trump. She posted to X to announce that in response to a post that tagged her. And this post that tagged her falsely claimed, quote, a pro-Palestine mob assaulted a Jewish woman in Brooklyn. And then, so this assistant attorney general said that her office is looking into potential charges on this. So let's take a look again at.
And here's that tweet, Katie.
Perfect, thank you. So that's the tweet, right? And here's the video that was posted by Rabbi Pupko, very selectively and interestingly edited. So let's take a look at the video.
And that's going to be the number, Katie?
I'm not sure. Let's see. We may have to actually just show that video, unless Nate is in that. Is that in the document? What is in the document? Well, it's just a part of that clip, I guess. Sorry, I'm trying to see if. All right, I'm not sure. It's in the document apparently, Brad, but it's that. I'll text it to you. Yeah, it is in.
Okay, you want the second by second video of the pro-Palestine mob? Is that what?
Yeah, just slow. It's like
to?
slow motion and short. Yeah, because the whole point is it doesn't show the context of what happens right before, right? So it looks like this woman's just being chased. You'll see.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And then as Brad gets that, I'll ask you, Rabbi, about what I mean. This is not the first time you've been spat on, unfortunately, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, my thoughts. It's painful to see people who are so ignorant and so wild in the same time, and they really don't know what they are doing and what they are representing. When we have a chance to speak to those people, regardless whether they're angry or interested, at least we see that they don't really know what they stand for. Many of them strongly believe they stand for the Jewish people, for the safety and security of the Jews. Some of them really believe that they are preserving the Jewish religion, which is unfortunately so deeply disturbing, because everything is like totally distorted in their minds. What the Jewish people are supposed to be, what we are supposed to represent, and what our religion is teaching us. And this is deeply disturbing. When we see these incidents, this just gives encouragement how important it is to raise the awareness, how important it is to help people. Whether these individuals will be willing to listen, that's a good question, but at least other people should have the opportunity of understanding what is going on. And let me add something that was mentioned in the previous segment about anti-Semitism. I attend all these rallies all the time. None of these rallies is anything about anti-Semitism. If you want to find some criticism to them, that's a conversation for itself. But this is nothing about anti-Semitism, nothing about desecrating a synagogue. On the contrary, we say it's because that these illegal events are taking place in a synagogue, misusing the religion to cover up these crimes. Therefore, we stand up to set the record straight and to say, no, these events taking place in the synagogues is a desecration of this religion that the synagogue is supposed to represent.
Right. Yeah. So here is, Brad, do we have the video? Okay, great. So here is the very misleadingly edited video.
What the fuck is wrong with you, bitch? Fuck it the fuck up!
So again, yeah, it does make it look like she's, being chased, because when you started there, you don't see what was happening before. Oh, that's Russell Glick. That's the revenge porn guy from Betar. That's Russell Glick, the revenge porn guy, who's so bad that he's not even allowed to be in Betar anymore. And of course, Betar was supposed to be disbanded. I believe that Tish James demanded that.
Are you celebrating 78 years of bloodshed? 78. Are you celebrating 78 years of bloodshed? 78 years of occupation? Are you celebrating this? Are you celebrating 78 years? Who's celebrating terrorists? Who's celebrating?
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So that's an interesting. It's very important. I think to show that Jews are not a monolith, all of whom support what Israel's doing. And the irony is, and I sound like a broken record. Like the irony is, I've cared about this issue for a long time, not because of Jewish self-interest, but I will say the irony is when people like us are called self-loathing Jews or accused of like perpetuating anti-Semitism, the irony is the more Jews speak out against Israel, like the better off we are in terms of anti-Semitism, obviously.
Exactly.
Like the entire world sees them live streaming a genocide, claiming to represent all Jews. If Jews cared about Jewish safety, they would be saying, no, we don't support this.
Exactly. This is what we say all the time.
Yeah.
And just people don't get it. The reason why they don't get it is just because they have manipulated their minds with this mainstream media, with wrong information.
Exactly, and brainwashed. And we have so many examples of that. But Rahma, someone who's actually called out the mainstream media for its failures, famously, you do it a lot, but Clarissa Ward, there is a viral video of you confronting her. Tell us what made you attend this and what you observed.
So I'm in contact also with Al-Awda, and they've been doing this for such a long time. But what was insane for me as someone who was sort of outside of New York to come back, just the day before and just a few days before, we were seeing Israelis stop Palestinian children from going to school, stop them from playing football in the very areas where this land is being sold. So the sense of entitlement and the audacity to have a public event when people are aware of this shows that we are in such a dangerous state where people are still allowing the narrative that justifies these actions. Because if we were in a normal setting, not only would this be completely criminalized, but people would be so insanely scared to hold such events. So the fact that we have these events happening years into a genocide just goes to show how much we're not as far as we'd want to be. And what New Yorkers don't realize is what is happening in Palestine is happening in the very heart of New York. I mean, we have Joseph and Elliot Mbalo, Zionists, who are taking up houses in the heart of Brooklyn. So it is insanity that but they don't want to see, they don't want you to realize just how much of a collective problem this is, how much of a collective struggle. I was at the protest. It was interesting. I actually interviewed Rabbi David, and he spoke so eloquently, so well. And it was so important to see that, and someone speaking in the name of Judaism against the very thing that you ought to be very normally against. But a lot of what people don't realize is a lot of the pro-Israel protesters, I stood amongst them. I wasn't wearing a kufiya. They didn't, and I was hearing how Islamophobic they were, how anti-Black they were, how just anti, and what they don't realize is Zionism is against every key value that you ought to basically have as a human being. Don't kill kids. Don't take what's not yours. And what people don't realize is a lot of them were teenage boys who thought they were on some kind of quest, that they were doing the right thing. One of these kids came up to me and swore to God that a cousin of his that serves in the IDF saw with his own eyes footage of beheaded babies thrown in dumpsters and lit on fire. And he swore to me. And I told him, show me this footage, Habibi. Yeah. Show me this footage. I'm here. And he wouldn't. He was like, oh, no, I swear to you. Another one came and swore to me. He's like, you were talking about the Christians and how prosecuted they are in Israel, because Zionism is against literally every religion you can imagine, including Judaism, ironically enough. And he tells me, you're talking about Christians. Give me one Christian who can practice their religion in Egypt, for example. I looked at him, I told him, interesting, I'm Egyptian. What are you even saying? But they want to believe a reality that helps them continue this insanity. Because as Rabbi David said before, if you were to speak to those who have an inkling of a tunnel that they will listen, it would shatter their whole identity. Zionism needs these teenage boys to go off and think that they are on some kind of purposeful quest. Insane and so dangerous to everyone.
Right, exactly. And you, I believe you have a video. Oh, sorry, I have to mute you.
I didn't even send you the video with the guy attacking me. He was attacking me to such a degree that I got another Zionist telling him to stop.
You have the video of being attacked?
Yeah, he was. I'll send it to you later. Unfortunately, I didn't send it to you because you know how I am, Katie. Me and Katie are actually very close friends, so, so I do this there all the time.
Well, if anyone here has a link, is that on social
I'm
media?
gonna post it. I'm going to be posting it. So he came right at my face, and he was so aggressive. They're so aggressive, and it's sort of remnant. But the thing is, why are people surprised? We're seeing this aggression being birthed by Israelis. Why wouldn't you imagine that those speaking for violence be violent? They are normalizing criminal intent. What is insanity for us is that those who are protesting the selling of illegal land are the ones who are criminalized by media here, and those that are doing the aggression are the ones that you are scared to speak up against. And this is the problem with the intelligentsia in New York and the journalism in New York, is that it does not equate the criminal behavior that we are seeing. And that's why there's a lack, there's a very far removed of the protesters on ground with Al-Awda, with people, with the ones who are even speaking for Palestine. The wording, the jargon needs to be as effective, or at least reflect the criminal intent and criminal behavior that we are seeing. Because if you don't, you are still going to have ridiculous events such as this.
Right. Well, Rahma, if you have the video on your phone, then you can send it to me, and I will send it to Brad so that we can show it, because I think it's relevant since we're talking about this. I muted you because when I talk, there's an echo.
Me and off screen me for a
Yeah,
second.
we'll remove you. Yeah, and I'm going to ask Terri some questions. Okay, great. So Terri, I want to ask you, shifting gears a little bit, but barely. But you have some demands of Mayor Mamdani. So the organization Al-Awda that you are part of, which called for the protest, posted that, quote, once again, Mamdani's NYPD kept protesters 250 feet away, out of sight and sound from the Zionist real estate event selling stolen Palestinian land. Who needs a buffer zone bill when you have this mayor? Protesters were trapped behind rows of barricades and hundreds of police officers, Mamdani and the NYPD working together to facilitate ethnic cleansing in Palestine. And we have, there's the post. So tell us about your what your demands are, Terri.
Yeah, really, Mamdani has been very public about making statements saying that he sees that these land sales were a violation of international law. Well, that's a very nice platitude if you're not going to back it up with anything, you know. So at the same time, he's making statements like that. He's enabling Jessica Tisch and the NYPD and their strategic response unit to violate all of our rights and, set up barriers and barricades that kept us in Manhattan. It was at least 300 feet away. And last night it was at least 250 feet away from the actual sight and sound. So we were kept out of sight and sound of the land sale event. So we're asking Mamdani to take an actual stand and stop the sale of stolen Palestinian land. So we want him to advance a meaningful cause to Attorney General Letitia James to look into the the illegal sales, audit them, and actually stop the sales from happening in the first place. We wouldn't be out there protesting if these sales weren't happening, obviously, and to stop the remove their tax exempt status from these places of worship or any place else that they have these sales that has tax exempt status, because they're violating all kinds of laws, from housing discrimination laws to human rights laws, etc., by having these sales. And then we also demand of Mamdani that he drop Jessica Tisch as the police commissioner and disband the SRG unit, which he had promised to do during his campaign, because he needs to curb the NYPD's discriminatory targeting of our demonstrations. So, you know, these barriers and the buffer zones, as a matter of fact, they put us in front of another synagogue, you know, by pushing us away from the synagogue that was having the stolen land event. That community, there's a lot of synagogues there. So they put us in front of another synagogue, is where they put up the barricades and tried to keep us there. And so they're really not trying to protect a synagogue, or why would they put us in front of another one? They put us, you know, they were really just trying to, the SRG, the NYPD in general, was just trying to protect this event from allowing it to go on, this stolen land sale. So that's really what it was about, and not protecting Jews. There was no incidents going on related to the synagogue that they had us in front of. You know, it was the whole thing was about the stolen land sale.
Right. So they knew you weren't bothered by the synagogue per se, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Synagogue per se. Yeah.
Right.
We actually have video of Mamdani being asked about not this event, but being asked more about these land sale events. And this is from May 5th. Here is Zoran's response.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you assess how you think things went last night at the Park East Synagogue protest? Do you think the police effectively enforced a buffer zone? Is that what essentially happened? And was the right to protest sufficiently protected?
And Park East Synagogue is another synagogue where they held one of these, yeah.
Yes, I think that I've made it clear time and time again that we in this city believe in the sacrosanct nature of the right to protest, and also are committed to ensuring that any New Yorker can safely enter or exit from a house of worship, and that access never be in question, while we also protect the First Amendment. And I do believe that the police ensured that yesterday.
And as you talk about ways to prevent anti-Semitism, I noticed yesterday that when you put out a statement about the protest, in advance of the protest, you noted that you agreed with the protesters. You've weighed in on the subject of Israel in a couple of other ways and recent days. And I just wonder whether, you know, are you considering whether you personally putting your views about Israel out there is in any way fueling anti-Semitism in the city? Do you ever think maybe you should just not weigh in or just not bring it up?
I think
fueling anti-Semitism, your views about Israel out there is in any way fueling anti-Semitism in the city?
Okay, so just want to pause and say, this journalist is asking Mayor Mamdani if she thinks putting his views on Israel out there is fueling anti-Semitism.
Do you ever think maybe you should just not weigh in or just not bring it up?
I think.
By the way, that's anti-Semitic in itself. Sorry to harp on this, but the suggestion that it is anti-Semitic to say that genocide is bad is, of course, suggesting that all Jews are a monolith who support anti-Semitism. Just FYI. Thank you. Okay. Oh, yeah.
Do you ever think maybe you should just not weigh in or just not bring it up?
I think that critique of the policies of a government are very much separate from bigotry towards the people of a specific religious faith. And there is no tolerance for anti-Semitism. There is no tolerance for hatred of Jewish New Yorkers, which we have seen time and time again, whether it be in the graffiti of swastikas on a number of homes across Queens recently. And I've also been clear to New Yorkers my honest opinions about the fact that when we have a real estate expo that is promoting the sale of land, which includes the sale of land in occupied West Bank, in settlements that are a violation of international law, that is something that I firmly disagree with, and that I also believe that many New Yorkers firmly disagree with, because it has been at the heart of an ongoing effort to displace Palestinians from their homes.
And then we're going to talk to one more, Kelly.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. Again, I wanted to ask you,
Okay, so that was well said. And so, Terry, as you're rightfully saying, you would just like some of the rhetoric to be matched by the policy. And it's interesting. Last week we had on Sana Saeed, who's a journalist, and she was talking about how we have to be vigilant against the charm offensive or the charisma of Zohran Mamdani, as she called it. But I also said that it's also hard because when you see him being unfairly attacked, I'm just being honest, it is harder to criticize him, because I think it makes us want to kind of rally around him. And that, of course, is something that is one of the dangers of when the right is so powerful and so unapologetic and so emboldened and entitled, as Rahma said, because then everything is shifted to the right. And so then we want to protect Zohran Mamdani from being called an anti-Semite unfairly. And that's fine, but we also have to make sure that he's doing the right thing. And, it's like the FDR quote, which may be apocryphal, but where he says, now go ahead and make me do it, right? Like, we need to create the pressure so that he feels it as a political pain point. We also have another video. Let's see. Okay, so in terms of the police response that he was asked about, here is Jessica Tisch, who is, you referred to her, Terry. She is the commissioner of the NYPD. And here she is talking about Jewish safety in New York at the Jewish Community Relations Council NY Gala Monday night. Because we do live in the capitalist world system, we do have some of this will be Patreon only. And so if you want to see the full thing, and you definitely will, because, wow, there are some bars that are dropped by our guests. Great words about not blaming. I'll paraphrase, and trust me, it's worth it to hear him say it. But the rabbi says something about not blaming Palestinians for generalizing about Jews. And conflating them with Israel, but blaming someone else. I'll leave you in suspense about who he blames. But spoiler alert, not the Palestinians. So please do become Patreon members at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Again, that's patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. And again, if you're watching live, you're in luck because you got to see the whole thing. But also, I shouldn't have, this is my fault. I didn't pit against the Canadians against anyone. So thank you. Cheers from Canada. Wonderful guests in chat. Thank you, Brett Boyle. Now, I mean, I'm just so ashamed of our viewers from other countries who haven't thrown down a shekel or a rupee or a ruble.
Hey, in this global economy,
Yeah. True. Yeah. True.
Yeah.
So, and we're my Egyptian fans. I mean, we had Rahma Zein, Egyptian celebrity, comes from a major media family, but not major media like a mogul, like a family of very good journalists, and I think she has 1 million followers on Instagram. Oh man, we really should have streamed this one on Instagram. Anyway, we'll do that later. We'll put some clips out there. Thank you so much, Charlotte. Thank you so much, Rabbi Dovid Feldman. Thank you so much, Terry. Thank you so much, Rahma. Thank you so much, Bradley. Thank you so much, Nate. Thank you so much, Phantom Fanta. Thank you so much, Guido. Thank you so much, Leigha. Again, if it turns out Leah's like a Scientologist or something, we disavow her. That's Scientologist phobic, but whatever. And thank you, Ashok. That was a wonderful segment.
I know it's a little bit like time. I don't know if I'm being biased about time, but there's just something about a religion that's young enough where their
now you're being ageist.
Where their savior has a driver's license. That I'm just true. I'm like, that's just kind of weird.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But maybe that's just me. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I like that rule. Anyway, but we will see you. Oh, we are doing these Friday. We are doing these daytime streams.
I'm sorry.
What?
I
You
think
like
this
my
person in the vertical chat has
Oh.
been making comments like this the entire time.
What? Something we should read? Oh, look at this ghost talk. That's not very nice.
It made me laugh.
Okay, yeah, it did. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That is really funny. Maybe they have a ghost fetish. Well, again, thank you so much, everyone. And we will see you. We are starting to do these daytime streams because we have so many guests that we want to have on who are based in time zones that aren't convenient at 7 p.m. EST, including, though, I got to give a shout out to Ashok, who was up and willing and rearing to go. And I wasn't like the only time you can come on is when you is if you do it at this time, but he was willing. So laughing about genocide. Okay, why did I look? Laughing about genocide. All right, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, we will see you Friday for our daytime stream. And that will be probably 12 or 1. We'll figure that out. But we're telling you more than we usually. Oh my God, he looks like Father Time. No, he doesn't. We're telling you more than we usually do. We usually just say Friday afternoon. So it'll be Ashok is very good energy. Yeah, he's a great guest. Casper. All right, we were going to Casper related, but then it went off some. And
kind of went off the rails.
That was good though. That's a very clever person with the gateway ghost comment that almost made us read it.
I know.
Yeah. All right. Another good point. Not all Zionists are Semitic, therefore anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism, and that is a great point. Most Zionists are Christian. So that is also kind of an inconvenient way to say it makes that argument that it's inherently like there's something inherently Jewish about Zionism a little inconvenient.
And Katie here, I took a screenshot.
Yes. Okay. Please, Katie, Halper, and Brad would invite Doctors Against Genocide and Adala Justice Center that represented Tiago and Saif in Israeli courts for a talk about Dr. I would love that, actually. That is a great idea. I will definitely do that because we want to talk.
I jotted it down and I'll send it to you as well.
Thank you. We definitely want to talk about Dr. Abu Safia. I mean, it is unreal that Judaism gave birth to Zionism. That's an interesting theory because the first Zionists were actually what? Say it with me now. Christian. And the first Jewish Zionists were what? Secular. Anyway, Dr. Abu Safia is still, I don't want to say in custody because that makes it sound like he's committed a crime. He's still been kidnapped, and we need to talk about that. And doctors all over the world should be up in arms about this. All right. Well, we will see you on Friday and then next week, and subscribe, like, here's our family friend. Hi, Donna. Hi, Donna Rasucci. Great is a great last name too. Donna is a great anti-Zionist New Jerseyan. So thank you for stopping by, Donna. And we will see everyone Friday and then Tuesday. Oh, and if you watch Useful Idiots and you heard me announce that we were having on a certain guest who was basically not allowed to give his speech at Rutgers because he was the executive producer of the Hind Rajab film, you're in luck because we will be having him on Useful Idiots this week. Good. Yeah, it wasn't false advertising. It was mistaken advertising because he was supposed to come on, but we would have had to have interviewed him while he was in a car. Not fun. Okay. No. So see you guys, and thanks everyone. Have a great night. Bye.
I did everything right and they indicted me. And I don't know what the I'm doing.
Antifa!